Right now, as I'm speaking, Chinese warships are patrolling waters that don't belong to them. They're building artificial islands on reefs that international law says are Philippine territory, and they're daring anyone to stop them. This isn't a future threat. This is happening today. And if you're wondering why it matters, let me show you exactly what's at stake. The South China Sea covers about 1.4 million square miles. 9 countries have claims to parts of it: China, the Philippines, Vietnam, Malaysia, Brunei, Taiwan, and Indonesia. But China claims almost the entire sea based on what they call the 9-dash line, a boundary they drew on maps in 1947 that looks like a giant tongue licking down from their southern coast. The problem? Under international law, specifically the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea, countries control waters extending only 200 nautical miles from their coastline. That's called an exclusive economic zone. Within that zone, you control fishing rights, mineral extraction, and maritime traffic. China's 9-dash line extends far beyond their legal EEZ, overlapping with the Philippines, Vietnam, and others. In 2016, the Philippines took China to an international tribunal at The Hague. They argued that China's claims violated international law. The tribunal agreed. They ruled that China's 9-dash line had no legal basis. That China's artificial island construction violated the Philippines' sovereign rights. That China had caused environmental damage to the reefs. China's response? They called the ruling a piece of paper and ignored it completely. They didn't send representatives to the tribunal. They didn't acknowledge the verdict. They just kept doing exactly what they'd been doing: building islands, deploying warships, and claiming the sea as their own. So why does China want this water so badly? 3 reasons: resources, trade routes, and military strategy. First, resources. The South China Sea contains massive oil and natural gas reserves. Some estimates put it at 11 billion barrels of oil and 190 trillion cubic feet of natural gas. That's not Middle East level, but it's substantial. China's economy runs on energy. They import most of their oil. Having domestic sources in waters they control would be a strategic game changer. There's also fishing. The South China Sea is one of the world's most productive fishing grounds. Over half of the world's fishing vessels operate there. For countries like the Philippines and Vietnam, fishing provides food security and livelihoods for millions. When China's massive fishing fleet depletes the stocks, it's not just an economic issue, it's existential. Second, trade routes. This is the big one. About 30% of global maritime trade passes through the South China Sea. That's $5 trillion worth of goods every year. Oil from the Middle East to Japan, manufacturing from China to Europe, electronics from Southeast Asia to America. Almost everything moves through these waters. Whoever controls the South China Sea controls the arteries of global commerce. That's economic leverage on a scale most people don't understand. If China can regulate who ships what through these waters, they can influence economies worldwide without firing a shot. Third, military strategy. China has what's called the Malacca Dilemma. About 80% of their imported oil comes through the Strait of Malacca, a narrow choke point between Malaysia and Indonesia. If that strait closes during a conflict, China's economy dies within weeks. They learned this lesson from Japan in World War II. Japan conquered territory across Asia but couldn't protect their supply lines. The US Navy cut them off and their war machine collapsed. China is building artificial islands to solve this problem. They're creating unsinkable aircraft carriers throughout the South China Sea. They're deploying anti-ship missiles. They're establishing a defensive perimeter that makes it harder for anyone to blockade their trade routes. It's not about aggression, it's about survival. Or at least that's how they see it. Now, here's where it gets complicated. China isn't just building sand castles. These artificial islands are serious military installations. Take Mischief Reef, for example. In 2015, it was an underwater reef at high tide. By 2017, China had dredged millions of tons of sand and built a 2.7 square mile island with an airstrip long enough for fighter jets. They installed radar systems, missile batteries, and hangar facilities. They did the same thing at Subi Reef and Fiery Cross Reef. The Philippines protested. Vietnam protested. The United States sent warships on freedom of navigation operations, basically sailing through disputed waters to make a point. China didn't back down. If anything, they accelerated construction. Why isn't anyone stopping them? Because the alternative is war, and nobody wants a shooting conflict with China. The Philippines military can't match China's. Their navy consists of a few old frigates and patrol boats. Vietnam has more capability, but still can't take on the People's Liberation Army Navy directly. So they file protests, appeal to international law, and hope someone else intervenes. The United States is that someone else. The U.S. has mutual defense treaties with the Philippines. If China attacks Philippine forces, technically, the U.S. is obligated to respond. But how far does that obligation go? Does it cover a fishing boat rammed by Chinese Coast Guard vessels? Does it cover an artificial island built on a reef, the Philippines claims? These are questions without clear answers, and that's exactly what China is exploiting, the gray zone. They're not launching missiles or invading territory with soldiers. They're building islands, deploying Coast Guard cutters, and using fishing militia. It's aggressive enough to change the facts on the ground, but not aggressive enough to trigger a military response. It's brilliant strategy if you're China. It's infuriating if you're the Philippines. Here's what makes this situation dangerous. In 2012, China seized Scarborough Shoal from the Philippines. It's a tiny reef about 150 miles from the Philippine coast. The Philippines had controlled it for decades. Chinese vessels surrounded it, and eventually the Philippines withdrew to avoid confrontation. China never left. They now effectively control Scarborough Shoal. The Philippines appealed to the United States. The U.S. said all the right things about supporting their ally, but didn't actually do anything. China learned a lesson. You can take territory if you're willing to push, and nobody else is willing to fight. That brings us to today. China has militarized at least 7 artificial islands. They've deployed fighter jets, bombers, and anti-ship missiles. They conduct military exercises in waters they don't legally control. They harass Philippine fishing boats and Coast Guard vessels, and the world watches. Some analysts say this is the new normal, that China has effectively won the South China Sea without firing a shot. Others say we're building toward inevitable conflict, that eventually someone will miscalculate and a confrontation will escalate beyond control. The Philippines is stuck in the middle. They need the United States for security, but China for trade. China is their largest trading partner. 40% of Philippine imports come from China. If the Philippines pushes too hard on the maritime disputes, China can retaliate economically. If they don't push at all, they lose their waters entirely. President Duterte tried playing both sides. He downplayed the tribunal ruling, cozied up to China, and got promises of infrastructure investment. His successor, President Marcos Jr., has swung back toward the United States, allowing more American military bases and conducting joint naval exercises. China responded with more aggressive patrols and warnings. Here's what keeps me up at night about this situation. In 1914, nobody thought a regional dispute in the Balkans would trigger a world war. But alliances and miscalculations turned an assassination into 4 years of catastrophic conflict. The South China Sea has the same ingredients: competing claims, military buildups, alliance commitments, and no clear off-ramp. If Chinese and Philippine vessels collide and people die, what happens next? Does the Philippines invoke their defense treaty with the United States? Does the U.S. respond militarily? Does China back down or double down? These aren't hypothetical questions. In 2023, Chinese Coast Guard vessels used water cannons against Philippine boats near 2nd Thomas Shoal. People were injured. It didn't escalate that time. The international community has options, but no appetite to use them. Economic sanctions against China would hurt global trade. Military intervention risks war between nuclear powers. Diplomatic pressure has been ignored for a decade. So we're left with the status quo. China advancing inch by inch, building facts on the water and betting nobody will stop them. The sad truth is, they're probably right. Unless something changes dramatically, China will control the South China Sea within a generation. The 9-dash line will become reality simply because they made it reality and nobody was willing to fight about it. For the Philippines, this isn't abstract geopolitics. It's their livelihood. Their fishermen can't fish. Their oil and gas reserves are off limits. Their maritime sovereignty is being erased, and their supposed allies are unwilling or unable to help in any meaningful way. The South China Sea is a test case for the 21st century. Can international law restrain powerful nations? Can smaller countries defend their rights against larger neighbors? Can the global system handle territorial disputes without war? So far, the answers aren't encouraging. China has shown that international law is meaningless without enforcement. That military power matters more than legal rulings. That if you're willing to be patient and aggressive simultaneously, you can redraw maps and nobody will stop you. The Philippine Sea is being taken over. Not with tanks and invasions, but with dredges and warships and fishermen who aren't really fishermen. And the world is letting it happen because the alternative is too scary to contemplate. That's not a satisfying ending, but sometimes the truth isn't satisfying. It's just the truth.